Good evening. We will first have a public hearing. The time is 7 p.m. It is Monday, March 16th. And I'd like to call to order the public hearing of the Urbana City Council Committee of the Whole. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Wu. Here. Councilmember Evans.
Here.
Councilmember Hersey. Councilmember Hersey. Councilmember Jones.
Here.
Councilmember Bishop. Councilmember Bishop. Councilmember Wilkin.
Here.
Thank you. Councilmember Quisenberry.
Here.
Mayor Williams.
Here.
Thank you.
All right. The City of Urbana City Council Committee of the Whole will hold a public hearing at 7 p.m. on Monday, March 16, 2026, to receive public input regarding the lease and easement of city-owned real estate, the manner of such lease, and a finding that the real estate to be leased is no longer needed for governmental purposes or proprietary activity of the city. Parcels subject to the lease and easement are 91-21-09-401-007 and 91-21-10-151-006. Is there anyone wishing to provide public input in regards to this? All right. Was there any written public input received? All right. With no further business before this body, this public hearing is adjourned. We will begin the Committee of the Whole. Councilmember Evans, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor. I call to order the Committee of the Whole meeting for March 16th, 2026. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Wu. Here. Councilmember Evans.
Here.
Councilmember Hersey. Councilmember Hersey. Councilmember Jones.
Here.
Councilmember Bishop.
Here.
Councilmember Wilkin.
Here.
Councilmember Quisenberry.
Here.
Mayor Williams.
Here.
Thank you.
All right. We have a quorum. Next up is the approval of minutes for the meeting, City Council meeting, February 23rd, 2026. Are there any substantive changes to the minutes? Chandra Grace, any changes to the minutes?
No, thank you.
Hearing none, we'll take a voice vote. All
Would you like a
approval of the minutes?
motion?
Oh, yeah, we probably should have one of those. Yeah, go ahead.
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
Moved by James, seconded by Mary Alice. Now we'll have a voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
All opposed say nay. The ayes have it, and those minutes are approved. Any additions to the agenda? Seeing none, we'll go on to presentations and public input. What's the recommendation? Which was going to be longer, Matt? How long do you think you'll go? Okay.
Also, that's
What do you recommend?
just as a
City
point of
Clerk?
procedure, the staff report is, it is a staff report, not a presentation. We don't have any presentations on tonight's agenda, so at this time, we should just consider public input.
Okay, we're going to go to public input then. So anyone wishing to address the city council, you have 5 minutes. Please step up to the microphone and just give your name for the record, please.
Good evening, Mayor and members of City Council. My name is Jessica Yassin. I am a resident of Urbana, and I'm also here tonight on behalf of the CU Muslim Action Committee. I was here last week, and I'll be honest, I was nervous. But I'm back tonight, and I'm a lot stronger because these things need to be said. Last week, a use of force report was read into the record. As I mentioned, Black residents make up roughly 19% of Urbana's population. Yet police force was used on Black people between 78 and 81% of the time. Let that sink in. We are talking about more than 4 times the population share. That means that in 1 year, effectively every single Black person in this community statistically had force used on them by police. That is not a statistic. That is someone's father, someone's child, someone's neighbor, and it's disturbing. We have stated goals in this city around racial equity, goals that this community took seriously in the wake of George Floyd's murder. Urbana buckled down on that promise, and yet here we are. This is not a wealthy city. Our median household income is around $45,000 a year. Nearly 28% of our residents live below the poverty line. People in this community are facing housing insecurity, food insecurity, and real hardship every single day. Every dollar matters here. So when we are talking about nearly $500,000 in new investment into policing, between the chief's salary and the hiring of new officers, that investment must produce results. And based on what was read at Monday's night meeting, last week's meeting, we are not seeing a return on that investment. I need to hear what the council and the mayor plan to do to remedy that. Now, I also want to bring something to this room tonight that I think is relevant. There are people watching this meeting online right now from Norfolk, Virginia. I shared Urbana's use of force report with them, and every single one of them was disgusted. Every person I invited to join tonight's meeting is a Black person who is either from Norfolk, an alumnus of Norfolk State University, which is HBCU, or someone who personally protested outside Norfolk City Hall back in 2021, demanding that their use of force data be made public. They know Chief Boone. They interacted with him. Some of them were part of those very protests. And when that data was finally released, they were not satisfied with what they saw. It ultimately contributed to his departure from Norfolk in 2022. They are upset to learn that the same trends appear to have followed Chief Boone here to Urbana. And it happens to be the city of someone they know personally, which is me. They are not going to let that slide, and neither am I. We are not Norfolk, we do not have Norfolk's budget, and we have less than half the Black population percentage that Norfolk had, yet our use of force numbers are even more disproportionate. That should alarm every single person in this room. Newsflash, I'm not Black, but I refuse to stay silent when I see these numbers. When only 19% of your city is Black and they are bearing the weight of over 80% of police force, every member of this community has an obligation to stand up. And that is what Urbana does. I see people of all backgrounds standing up for one another here, and that is one of the things I love most about this city and why I'm proud to call it my home. As a minority myself, I am going to show up for other minorities. Tonight, that means showing up for the Black community. And finally, I speak not just as a resident, but again, as a member of the CU Muslim Action Committee. We have one mosque here, and our congregation includes Black community members from both Urbana and Champaign. My own sheikh is West African. He falls directly within these demographics. That does not sit well with me. As Muslims, we are called to stand up for justice and to protect our community. A number of the Black residents reflected in that 19% are also our brothers and sisters in faith. We do not accept these numbers, we will not accept these numbers, and I am here tonight to make sure this council knows that. We need results, we need a plan, and we need to hear it from you. Thank you for your time.
Hi, my name is Stephen McGuire. I'm also speaking about the abysmal use of force numbers. Recently, in addition to those use of force numbers, Chief Boone said that, okay, this data doesn't tell the whole story. Well, what else is part of the story? Maybe the culture. Your leadership is part of the story. I was here when Chief Boone recommended Michael Cervantes to be promoted to a position second only to the chief, aside from another deputy. Michael Cervantes, for the record, was involved in the beating of Aaliyah Lee. Now, okay, perhaps he changed a new leaf. Chief Boone and others had plenty of time to provide evidence that he did. But the only evidence you really provided was that the No Kings protest went well. Councilmember Evans provided evidence of Cervantes lying to the public. And yet that wasn't taken into consideration. and he was given a position next to the chief. That kind of promotion of leadership, of that kind of person, sends a message. And if you want to know why we have these numbers, that could be why. In addition, as Ms. Yassin rightfully pointed out, you levied a tax on groceries that generated $1 million in revenue. About 60% of that is going to the police. That is $600,000 that could go to social services, food banks, to permanently fund homeless shelters that we could do a lot with. And instead, we paid it to the police. We want to see results, and these are not them. So the next time you come before us and say you want a lot of money to go to the police, we need to hear a plan for how you are going to get numbers better than this. We need to hear what kind of leadership is going to be implemented to get numbers better than this, or we shouldn't be paying that money. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Stuart Levy. I live in Southwest Champaign, but I work in Urbana and often go shopping here, as I just was. Anyhow, I feel like I have a stake in this town as well. And I wanted to say more on my comments last week with respect to the use of force numbers. So, let's see. If you listen to what Chief Boone had to say about crime disparity and economic disparity in Urbana last week, you might think that the main driver, or really the only driver mentioned anyway, of disparities in crime was connected with disparities in economic situation. As in, it doesn't matter what the police do, they're just responding to the crimes that are already there. And I want to say that is not a good way to look at the data. In particular, let's see, 2 examples showing this. One was with respect to traffic stop data, which people have been looking at for years. And one study that Esther Patt told this council about maybe 15-ish years ago, I think it was this council, looked at the racial disparities in traffic stop rates as a function of time of day. And what they found was that the disparities, black people were much more likely than white people to be stopped in the daytime. At nighttime, when people would be presumably driving in the same way, but it wouldn't be easy to tell what the race of the driver was, black people became much less overrepresented in the traffic stops. That's one. So simply by being visible as black people, the police were a lot more likely to be suspicious of them. That was 15 years ago. I doubt if it has changed now. The other example, after the Champaign police killed a 15-year-old teenager, Kewan Carrington, in 2009, the city of Champaign did, I think, a good thing, and they had a big community meeting talking about race relations. And I was at one of the tables. And there was a Champaign police person at each table, and the question came up, you know, if you saw a crowd of white teenagers hanging out in a yard, you wouldn't be suspicious of them. If you saw a crowd of black teenagers, likewise, hanging out in a yard, you would be suspicious that they were up to no good. People differing just by their race, doing the same things, come under more or less suspicion depending on what they look like. And as he said this, it's not only the police, this is a systemic thing. A middle-aged black woman who was also sitting at the same table said, yeah, she agreed with that. She thought that was the right way to go, that was the right decision to make. So I'm bringing all this up to say, if somebody says, well, the crime is just out there and the police are just acting on what they need to act on, you should be more suspicious of it than just showing economic and crime rate disparity maps. Thank you.
My name is Gabriel Dunn. I was born in Urbana. Hopefully you'll be permanently relocating back to Urbana, but and this isn't the only government body that I'm going to be addressing this to. I'll be addressing Champaign and the county. As someone who is we're now a homeless resident, I do just want to say that I am shocked and appalled at this community. And I'm not saying this specifically, I'm saying this with everyone. It seems that there's more focus on dividing between those of us who are just like slipping through the cracks, who are staying out of trouble, aren't on drugs, you know. Some of us have jobs, and it seems like the priority are for the people who have addiction issues, and they're the ones getting the services. And meanwhile, it's like people like us, we're having to suffer. We're having to do the cow chopping. And I just want to say that I was at the meeting, the community meeting by Ms. Chenoweth, and it's a lofty goal of ending homelessness in this area in the next 2 years. My whole thing is like, okay, it's lofty goals, but how are we going to do it? And is it going to be equitable? Is there going to be like this like pecking order of like who's more worthy of the services and who isn't? Because it seems like there is. I literally was told and turned away from getting services by a mid-barrier shelter in this community because I'm not considered at risk enough. Like, something needs to be done because too many of us are on the streets who are hardworking and we're not getting anything. And the second we get an income, all of our assistance gets taken away.
Hi, my name is Luke Lee, resident of Champaign. I work in Urbana, spend a lot of time in Urbana. Want to echo what a lot of folks have said tonight about the use of force report. I mean, year after year since I lived here in the community, Urbana Police has asked for more money. Year after year, there's been some of the biggest crowds I've ever seen in this room come in here to, show opposition to that, showing opposition to funding more police, and no one there's no song about no one feels this way about the fire department, right? Like no one, some there might be budgeting differences, but no one wants to, not a lot of people have bones to pick, and it's because of things like the use of force report that we're seeing. And if we're really gonna address and create justice, meaningful justice, it's gonna, not to sound like a broken record with what folks have been saying for years and years and years, it's gonna be giving funds to folks' basic needs, right? Whether it is housing or medical care or, the alternative response program is a good start. But survivor services for folks who've experienced violence or harm, education, schools, that's where our money should be going. And, people have been saying that for years, and like we are going to continue to be here, continue to push until, folks have their basic needs met, like that we have that, safe, like basis upon which we can stand as a community to like be able to heal and be able to address issues. Funding basic needs is how we're gonna start. Thank you. Have a good night.
Good evening, City Council and Mayor Williams. Last week, I came and I spoke on my own behalf in favor of the surveillance ordinance that's been under consideration for over a year. I spoke in favor of the original version before it had been watered down by some of the members of this council trying to carve out some specific details. And I still speak in favor of that. I'm here again today for that. My expertise on this topic comes from the research that I do, which is in the area of cybersecurity and privacy. I've published on topics related to surveillance and the carceral system, and transparency is like the most important thing that we can do. It's great. This ordinance is not even anti-surveillance, although that would also be very reasonable and on the side of justice, but it is in favor of transparency, and that's super important. So I wanted to speak on that again. I actually assign students in my class, I teach a class called Cyber Dystopia, where students learn about how technology is sometimes not universally good, that it sometimes causes harm. And I assign them to watch pieces of one of the early meetings on this ordinance as an example of people in a community speaking in favor of justice, speaking in favor of transparency, and against cyber dystopian uses of technology. I hope that with time, I'll be able to assign them a follow-up to that, where that ordinance is successful in this town. That would be very exciting. Tonight, I come to share the same message on my own behalf again, but also to speak on behalf of and with the approval of the Center for Just Infrastructures at the University of Illinois. So the goal of the Center for Just Infrastructures is to advance research, education, and community engagement around equity in everyday systems infrastructures. In our research, teaching, and engagement, we study, critique, and create new infrastructure approaches, systems, and algorithm processes around the diverse and regional needs and challenges facing society. So this center, the folks in it agreed that it made sense for us to speak in favor of this ordinance and in favor of the original version. Since spring break is upon us, that is sort of all we were able to come to a consensus about for this week, but I'm really looking forward to having more meetings with them, being able to come to this body again with additional insights from that group, and to have more of them come when they're not off doing great things for to renew themselves over spring break, and to offer further conversation outside of this one-sided, one-directional conversation on what folks in that group might know to contribute and help support that ordinance. Thanks so much.
All right. Hey, Mayor Williams, City Council. Derek Briles. I live in Urbana Ward 4. Really just here to echo the comments that have already been made, that people that are going to speak more eloquently than I did. That I share the horror, I share the outrage in the use of force data. It's truly horrific. It is inexcusable, and it is something that has to be addressed. And I think all these things are part of the same core fundamental issue here, and that's how we prioritize the services the city provides and how we spend the money on those services. The police get a lot of money, and they get more and more money, right? The rate with which their budget increases faster than the budget itself. It's exponential growth that the police are seeing in their budget that we're not really seeing in other services. I think it's great what the city's doing right now with the grant money, right? It's the biggest grant money they're releasing ever. I think this is great. This is progress. I think there's good things happening, but it's not enough, right? When you're spending $16, $17 million on the police, and what are we seeing? Use of force going up? Is crime down? Not really, right? And I think Chief Boone mentioned yesterday, like he's seen this in other places where if there's an increase in resources of sworn officers and money, they build relationships, and those relationships reduce overall use of force. First off, I'd love to see that data. I'd love to prioritizing the right things and being willing to do things differently. Think holistically. We don't have to keep doing things just because that's the way we've always done them. Somebody always has to be first. Somebody always has to take a risk. And you're not going to be first, you're not taking risks if you're just going to keep throwing more money at the police. I'm not saying cops have an easy job. I would never claim that. I think they have a hard job, and I think we all need to do a lot more to make their jobs easier. I think alternative response is going to be a great part of that. I think you need to take that very, very seriously. We don't need police doing the work that police shouldn't be doing. It's not fair to the police officers, and it's certainly not fair to the community. They don't need a cop showing up with a gun if you're having a mental health crisis or a dog is barking or what have you, right? There's other more qualified people to handle these sorts of things. And that takes the workload off the police, right? They don't need to be working a bunch of overtime. You don't want a cop out there with a gun that's worked 50, 60 hours that week interfacing with people. That's not good for anybody. This is not good for anyone. But just throwing more money at the problem isn't going to fix it. Having more police on the street isn't going to fix it, right? You're going to have to address systemically affordable housing. You're going to have to really look at, yes, racism, but also the structures that reinforce that, right? Like it exists not because white people simply hate black people. It's much more complicated than that, right? And it's about exploiting people for their labor, and it's about having an underclass that is exploited, right? That generates profit for the wealthy. And you have to think about these things more creatively. You have experts. You just heard from an expert. This is a world-class university here. There's so many people in this community that are willing to help and to put some skin in the game. And you really need to call on them, and you really need to think differently here, because we can't keep doing this. We're coming up on budget again. I'm really, really, really want you to think about prioritizing where that money goes, putting it to services, not to the police.
Anybody else have any public input they want to give? Okay, seeing none, we will close out public input, and that will take us to staff report.
Councilmember Evans?
Yes,
I
ma'am.
believe we did have one letter of written public
Oh,
input
yes,
that did request to be read.
Well, it's a good thing we have a city clerk, man. Yes, we have a letter, and I will read it now. This is a letter regarding ordinance number 2026-03-007. Number one, please read my email of February 21st, 2026. Number two, please read materials provided at the March 9th, 2026 Committee of the Whole meeting. And number three, please visit the Vine Street site, and please reject ordinance 2026-03-007. When you have your discussion group on Traffic Commission and requesting safety improvements, you need to establish a procedure that allows an alderperson to submit requests to the Traffic Commission, since it's an advisory board to the community, an advisory board to the Committee of the Whole. If an alderperson has a concern or an issue, they would bring it to the COW. The Committee of the Whole votes on sending it to the Traffic Commission for data and research. The Traffic Commission would study the matter and send back an opinion or results to the Committee of the Whole in a timely manner. By voting as the Committee of the Whole, you eliminate individual alderperson interaction with staff during this process. There wouldn't be any animosity between alderpersons as each individual request would first funnel through the committee of the whole. Thanks, Charles Warmbrun. And that concludes public input now, and I see our city attorney is ready to go. So with that, Matt Roshley, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Councilmember Evans. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here tonight to report back to you on some issues that have arisen in questions related to the draft surveillance technology ordinance that Council's been considering now for some time. Legal questions in nature and some requests to revamp some language. And so I'm going to do my best to walk us through in as orderly a fashion as possible these issues and questions one by one. You should each have an outline document that lists each of the questions in the order that I'll go through them, a draft of the surveillance ordinance itself, which I've titled the discussion draft. It's not the official document that's in front of council right now on the agenda. It is proposed revisions from the city attorney related to some of the questions that I've received since the last time council discussed this, and it's designed to generate discussion tonight and also to lead to potentially an updated draft that would be on a future agenda. And then the third document is, it says proposed new section 7 at the top, and it's a standalone of section 7 of the draft ordinance that relates to destruction and retention of improperly collected data. So this is also just for the purpose of discussion, but because it's quite lengthy, I wanted to kind of set it aside. And if our discussion runs over tonight, this may be the thing that falls victim to getting pushed over to a future discussion. So question from Councilmember Wu.
Go ahead.
So we have 3 documents in front of us, and 2 of them, one says draft version 8, and one says V 8.1. So what you just discussed having the differences, but the titles were not the same. I was wondering if you could help me figure out which one went to what.
I don't have a draft version 8 document in front of me. The one I have just says version 8.1. I think actually the version 8 is what's officially on the agenda. So scratch that. That's the version that has been on the council agenda each time. Is that incorrect?
No, because we've had version
May I
7.2, I believe, is the last version that came before council formally.
Grace, can you clarify?
Yes, I would be happy to. You are correct. 7.2, I believe, was the last one publicly discussed. New version 8 has some minor changes that was shared with the city attorney, so it was kind of building off that. In this 8.1 from the city attorney, you can see, at least in my computer, it shows up in red, the things that were changed to version 8. So between 7.2 and 8, so in red are my changes on version 8, and I believe in blue are the city attorney's additional changes for 8.1.
Okay. I think their copies are in black and white, but I can highlight those for you as we walk through if they're Councilmember Wilkins' changes or what we're discussing tonight. So with that, do we have any other questions before we get started? Okay.
You okay, Marielle?
Yeah, I'm totally fine. Grace, just so you know that we have one color copy, which is version 8, and version 8.1, there's no color copy. So if you could, you or Matt could highlight what you want to discuss, that would be awesome.
Yep, I absolutely can. So if you would first flip with me to section 2, which is on the 3rd page. I'm going to also pull this up on the monitor so that we're all looking at the same thing.
8.1. Yeah, this is 8.1.
Okay. Okay, section 2 is entitled Approval Process for Surveillance Technology Acquisition or Use. Presently, it just describes how council would consider and approve surveillance technology that is presented for approval. I was asked to come up with language that could capture how council may reconsider technology that's been either already approved or previously denied. On the event that a council member or multiple council members would like to see the council revisit it, or if there's some other triggering event. So Section 2C is the new language. It's underlined here. And I'll just kind of walk you through what's in this new language and what its intent is. So first of all, it's intended to be procedural language only, right? This does not and should not materially change anything else in the ordinance related to surveillance technology. There are two ways under this new language that council might reconsider technology that's previously been approved or denied. First would be after the passage of 12 months, and that would be by request of one council member with the sponsorship of a second, which is the current council rule for getting something on the agenda, or it could be from the administration through the mayor in his authority to set the agenda for council meetings. And after 12 months, either way, a proposal to reconsider would come forward, and then it would require a majority council vote to actually reopen the issue and consider it again. It would be incumbent upon the party that's the moving party, essentially it's requesting reconsideration, then to make the case for what should be changed, and that presentation would then occur at a subsequent committee of the whole meeting. So the first condition would be simply the passage of 12 months by a simple majority vote of council. The second way is more complicated, and it would be due to what I've deemed to be a demonstrable material change in circumstances that may affect the council's original intent or intent in previously approving or denying the use of a particular technology. And I give three specific examples, but it is not limited to those. Those are just the three that seem most likely or possible. The first would be evidence that shows that the approved use of the technology has led to an outcome indicating a discriminatory impact or some other infringement of individual rights. So some outcome that perhaps was not anticipated would enable a request to reconsider sooner than 12 months and would be a basis for arguing that there's been a demonstrable material change in circumstances to reopen the issue, essentially. Under Section B, another material change would be a change in the law that changes or materially impacts the previously approved or denied use of the technology. So again, going right to council's original intent and either approving or denying, if there's a change in the law that shifts something sort of fundamental to what council intended in approving or denying, a council member or the administration could make the case that this needs to be reconsidered, that council's original intent is not consistent with the law currently. And then under subsection C, another potential set of material changes or type of material change would be the revelation of a previously unknown capacity, functionality, or application of the approved technology that is inconsistent with the city council's previous intent in approving or denying the technology. So something through no fault of the city department or the council in presenting a technology for approval that sort of went unconsidered or was unknown, that a technology had a particular functionality that's materially different than what council contemplated and approved, could be the basis for essentially for reopening and reconsidering the technology. Another difference in that material change condition, so those three specific examples would require a higher approval threshold according to this draft, and what I'm suggesting to council here, that the approval threshold for a vote would be 2/3 majority of the corporate authority, so that would include the council and mayor, and not just a simple majority of the city council, as it would for a 12-month reopener. The purpose of that, or the intent of that, in my view, is to align that reopener with the standard for amending or passing a budget. Considering that the initial approval of a technology is likely to lead to subsequent expenditures and actions by a city department that's received approval to make a purchase, and that essentially revisiting it or potentially pulling the plug on it short of 12 months could have significant budgetary impact. So it's kind of aligning it with that threshold, and it's also weighting the process toward the status quo, toward the approval that's already occurred, because of the fact that it could occur at any point in time and not just after 12 months. The 12-month window obviously allows for the potential to anticipate a change that could align that change with budget planning and things of that nature. So the purpose for the 2/3 of corporate authority's approval standard is simply to make it a little higher hurdle to clear, and with the types of material changes that are described here, if the facts support one of those cases, I think it's more likely true than not that you're going to get overwhelming support from the council to reconsider an item. Now, that being said, this is the city attorney's suggestion. Certainly, this is something for council to discuss and debate if there's not a majority in favor of this. If a simple majority standard is more favorable, that's council's prerogative. But I'm just want to make sure it's clear what the intent is with that language. I touched on this previously, but I want to walk through again, because it's a multi-step process to reopen, how it would work again, either for a 12-month reopener or for one of these material change reopeners. The first step would be that a council member with the support of another council member would request reconsideration, and that would go on an agenda as a question for council to consider, just like, simply this current ordinance originated that same way, with a council member and a second council member sponsoring it. It came directly on the agenda as a draft ordinance. The question to reconsider would come onto the agenda in a similar fashion, or it would come through the administration at the mayor's behest. Then the second step would be voting on that question that comes onto the agenda. So it would require a majority vote of council after 12 months to reopen the question, or in the case of a material change circumstance, short of 12 months, it would take 2/3 of the corporate majorities to decide to reopen the question and have that discussion and debate. And then the third step would be the presentation, making the case for why someone believes a change needs to occur based upon the standards in this ordinance language. That, I think, covers everything. I know it's a lot. I'm happy to take questions. I know there may be questions, later on as well, but I wanted to do as thorough a job as I could explain this, because there's a lot of moving parts to it.
Grace, do you want to start?
And you're still going through the other items, right? This is just questions for section 2.
That's right. I should have clarified. This is just for this section. I thought, just based upon the amount of information here, it would be helpful to do one issue at a time.
Okay. I would clarify, I said that your things were in blue. It looks like they're purple, and that's what's on the screen. So the 8.1 changes are purple, and it looks like that version 8 changes are still in red on the document that I'm looking at. And then the question was, some's highlighted in yellow, and just checking, is that because those were some changes since we spoke earlier this week or last week?
No.
Or why are 4 and 5 highlighted in yellow?
Yes, my apologies. That's just a visual cue for me as we go through the document to highlight the ones that I want to discuss.
Thank you.
Anything else, Grace? Okay, go ahead, Mary Alice.
Thank you, Matt, for laying this all out. Silly thing here, you've got 2 4s. Just going
I
to fix
noticed that as we were looking at the
Yeah. Would you
highlighted.
mind scrolling up a little bit? I'd like to look at, so basically it seems like there's kind of 2 key things. The one is within 12 months at most recent vote. And so my question is, what is the process within 12 months? Because we have this whole kind of process outlined for number 2, which is at any time, which at least on first read, it looks reasonable to me. What is the process for number 1?
Yeah, so the, I'm looking at C1 here, my apologies.
Yeah, that's what I was referring to,
so
sorry.
I think this is simply a drafting error on my part, but it says within 12 months, which is confusing. What it said originally was it's 12 months or after. So after 12 months has passed, this reads
That's not how
differently.
I read that.
So my apologies. That is an important oversight. So that process would simply be 12 months has passed or more. So it could be.
But then, does it get on the agenda the same way as the other?
So the way it would, the question itself to reopen would get on
Yes.
the agenda would be either through the administration, through the mayor, identification of an issue that needs to be addressed, or from one council member's request with the sponsorship of a second, the way that.
I feel like we need to include that component under 1, so we're very clear in terms of what is the process after 12 months.
I'm happy to do that. I think what we did was refer to the, let's see, it would be under, so under paragraph 3, if you go to the paragraph right before it's highlighted, it says a request to reconsider previously approved or denied surveillance technology may be placed on the agenda by the mayor or council members consistent with council rules in effect at the time of the request. So it's just referencing the current standards, the current rules in place for getting something on an agenda. And the intent would be that this would track with if council or future council decided to change those rules, we wouldn't have to change this ordinance alongside it, that it would simply square with the existing standard at that time.
So it sounds to me like number 3 could just be copied and placed under item number 1? 3,
No,
3,
no,
1?
three through 5 are the process for both.
For
items.
both, yeah.
Okay, thank you. For both. Got it.
Again, my apologies on the confusing language on paragraph 1. That's just simply a
I think it was the
drafting error on my part.
yeah,
So to be clear again,
that makes sense.
this is 12 months or more, and not within 12 months. The second paragraph would be anything that's short of 12 months. So.
Got it.
Anybody else with questions about this particular section? Matt, I have a quick question. So would the burden of making the argument for reconsideration be on those that are putting it on the agenda?
That's correct.
Mayor or the 2 council members, right? Okay.
So I would just, if I could, just a quick example that I could think of, right? For the change in law example, I would likely be the person first aware of a change that might shift something, and I might go to the mayor and say, I think we need to discuss this with council. I think this warrants a possible reopener discussion. I would make a short case to the council, probably in an agenda document of some sort, and then there would be likely a short substantive discussion when council votes on whether or not they want to reopen it based upon the information we have, but then the full presentation of why we should reconsider this and what changes and what's being recommended would then come at the next committee of the whole meeting, if that makes sense.
Yeah. that makes sense. And I guess the evidence is being collected, however that is done, I guess like the evidence of the effects of the technology, for instance, and the discriminatory nature, that's going to require some sort of statistical analysis. I mean, I don't know exactly how council members would get access to that information to begin with, but I guess we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But
Yeah, admittedly, how this would play out in certain
Yeah.
circumstances, this is my best attempt to think of scenarios that might make sense here, so.
Yeah. Okay. That's all I got. Go ahead and to your next section.
Okay. We'll move on to what will be section 5B, and this relates to language that was in the previous draft. Make sure I get to it here before we start getting into it. Here's 5. Okay, 5B. In the previous draft, there was a section at the end of subparagraph B, that talked about the city, among the other copies of any contracts or agreements for the purchase, acquisition, or use of any new surveillance technology, the city would provide any non-disclosure agreements that were either proposed or that had been entered into. And this change here in particular is intended to clarify first that that's simply something that the city can't do and will not do. So under the vast majority of circumstances, non-disclosure agreements are a non-starter because of FOIA and transparency in general. And so this is a statement saying the city is going to follow its obligations under FOIA and its current practices, and that it won't enter into a non-disclosure agreement or contractual confidentiality provision with any surveillance technology vendor or third party provider that limits or purports to limit the disclosure of records or information subject to FOIA. So instead of saying we'll turn over NDAs, we're saying we don't do NDAs. Okay, any questions on that one?
Grace, any questions?
No, thank you.
Chandra?
No, none at this time. Thank you.
James?
When you talk about this is specifically about the terms of the contract, right? So in some circumstances, an organization may want to share how their technology works. That might be intellectual property. Would that be covered by this or not?
It would be covered by FOIA exemptions, so trade secrets, information of that type of nature, proprietary information typically is subject to a FOIA exemption, and not agreeing to an NDA gives the city the discretion as to what we will and won't disclose under FOIA based upon the current law.
Yeah, but the terms of the contract all have to be public, so non-starter.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Matt, next section.
Okay, we're going to scroll down to subpart C of 5. And this is language that previously stated essentially that the city won't sell or enter into any agreement where we would share or sell surveillance data to third parties, non-governmental third parties, public or private, or sorry, for-profit, nonprofit, et cetera, that we won't essentially sell surveillance data. And so I was asked to try to tighten the language up a little bit and clarify it. You'll see on the first line here, this is just really a textual change to try to make it a little bit more straightforward, saying that the city shall not enter into any contract or other agreement that facilitates the sharing of surveillance data. And then we enter the part that's in red and underlined. That is language from version 8 that we referenced previously that was in the draft that Grace shared. And that says we won't share any surveillance data that's in the city's possession with any non-governmental entity, third party in exchange for money or other consideration, whether or not such surveillance data was generated by or is owned by the city. And that any agreements that are in existence prior to the enactment of the ordinance that would violate this would be terminated as soon as permissible under the terms of the agreement. So essentially, we're not going to enter into these agreements. If we happen to have an agreement that seems to indicate something to this effect, we'll end it as quickly as we can. Councilmember Wu.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead. Thanks, Matt.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, I feel like this is absolutely a much clearer statement in terms of what the city will not do with data that we possess. My question is that last sentence, are you aware of any contracts or agreements that we have that say that we will share data with non-governmental entities?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Grace, any question?
No, thank you.
Chandra?
Yeah, so the beginning of Part C, could you read what is supposed to be there with the crossed out? I'm kind of confused as what it's supposed to say.
Yeah, I can read what it used to say, and then I'll read what it says now. So previously, it just said the mayor's office and all city departments are hereby prohibited from entering into any contract or other agreement. The change makes it read, the city shall not enter into any contract or other agreement. So the previous language makes it sound like essentially the city council is the legislative body regulating or putting this onus on the mayor's office and city departments when in fact this is going to involve agreements that some of which may have been signed by the city council or would be before the city council for approval. So just simply saying the city to include both the executive and legislative branches would be appropriate here.
Okay, thank you.
So Matt, I have a question. And I like this sentence, whether or not such surveillance data was generated by or is owned by the city. And I think some of these vendors, while we may be in possession of it, they're in possession of it too, right? And so what I hear, I'm reading and my question is if we catch them selling it, we're allowed to terminate the contract is what you're saying. Or what are you saying?
I don't think this says that exactly. Certainly something we could consider.
Yeah.
I think we can, as part of a negotiation of a contract, have that be, a standard that we're upholding on the city's part. I have to admit, I wasn't really prepared to address that specific question just because this was a rewrite of existing language trying to capture the existing intent. So
I'm not
I have to
faulting
give
your
it some thought, but I think your question is well
I'm
received.
not faulting your language.
Yeah.
What you're trying to say is the city won't sell it.
That's right.
And what I'm asking, I guess, I've kind of expanded the question. What if we catch the vendor selling it? You know what I mean? Because they have it, on their data banks or whatever. So that's just what I'm wondering. Maybe just make a note of that, and we'll think about that later. Thank you. Okay, I think next section when you're ready, Matt.
All right. So then the next issue or set of questions relates to the role of the CPRB and or HRC, and that is in section 8. of the draft ordinance. So I'm going to try to go big picture here first, and then zoom in on a couple of the subsections here because they address different kind of issues or questions. So the first thing I would point out is that 8A assumes a role for the CPRB. I realize we've got the acronym wrong in one place, but that's okay, we'll fix it. It assumes a role for the CPRB both in oversight and advisory functions related to surveillance technology. So oversight in that it would give the CPRB authority to review and make recommendations on the surveillance technology annual report and use report, and advisory authority in that it would give the CPRB the ability to review before it comes to council a use policy on a particular surveillance technology and make recommendations related to that in the legislative process. So two different things: oversight for the annual report that it can review and make recommendations on, as well as use reports, and then policy advisory role for the use policies for surveillance ordinances before they're considered by the city council. Okay, these are, I want to make clear, these are authorities that the CPRB does not currently have. Okay, so if council were to proceed with a version like this particular draft, it would require an amendment to Chapter 19, Article 3, which is the CPRB's enabling ordinance, to fold in these additional functions. That part is just, it's unequivocal. It's just not in their ordinance presently. Now, subpart B touches on this a little bit. What is within their existing authority and also within the existing authority of the HRC is the ability to hear complaints in their respective lanes. So with CPRB, it's citizen complaints alleging misconduct by sworn peace officers. With HRC, it's discrimination-related complaints that are filed with OHRE. If either of those types of complaints involve the use of surveillance technology, then either of those boards or commissions would have some authority to review matters involving surveillance technology. But that is authority they currently have simply by virtue of being able to hear those kinds of complaints either on appeal or as part of their administrative process. And so this is simply stating that overtly, that reviewing complaints that involve surveillance technology is something that these two bodies can do, kind of restating the current state of affairs. But that is distinguishable from policy, advisory roles, and oversight of the use of surveillance technology, like paragraph A suggests. I'm going to move down to paragraph C. And this one, I know there's a lot of strikeout and underline, I apologize. What this paragraph does is simply clarifies that both of these bodies can request and shall be provided records relating to surveillance technology that are relevant to the complaints properly before those bodies. So kind of relating back to paragraph B, if in the process of reviewing on appeal a complaint about officer misconduct filed by a citizen, the CPRB wants to review surveillance technology documents related to that case, they can request and be provided those records within that purview. If council chose to give CPRB additional authorities related to surveillance technology, then this paragraph C would need to be expanded to also include the ability to request and be provided records related to policy, documents and records that would go into putting together the annual surveillance report, things of that nature. So right now, this reflects current reality, but if council wanted to give CPRB additional responsibilities under its ordinance, we would have to expand this current draft language. And then I'll just hit the final paragraph, and then we can discuss. The final paragraph also, again, this is just reflecting current reality as well. The City Council, in its review of surveillance technology annual reports and use reports, may request and shall be entitled to receive and review records relating to the use of such technology by city departments. That's already currently the law, and hopefully are consistent with our procedures in all cases, but my understanding is there have been instances in the past where requests may or may not have been fulfilled in the way that council members desired or believed they should have been, and so this is restating the rights of the City Council to get access to records. Okay. Now, does anybody have questions about any of these pieces relating to the CPRB, HRC, or these administrative processes?
Grace?
Just a small question on C about the word properly. I'm not sure how that fits in. A complaint properly before that body?
It's intended to mean within its jurisdiction under its ordinance. So, not any old complaint form filled out that may or may not be within sort of the purview of that body. Assuming that it's a case that can move forward and be heard by either body. We certainly can tweak the language there if need be.
Thank you.
James?
So just to ask two simple questions. Part A, you're suggesting that we can't do Part A unless we amend the part that covers the instantiation of the CPRB.
We would need to amend their enabling ordinance to
Okay.
expand it.
And Part B is more of an exclamation point. It's not necessary. Those two bodies could hear the complaints that this describes with or without this text being in here.
That's right.
So it's just an emphasis bullet.
Yeah. I would say B, C, and D are all that. They're sort of restating the existing rights or, authorities of those boards with request to hearing complaints or requesting related records, and City Council the same. Just sort of.
But there's no reason you can't contextualize things like this in an ordinance like this to help people understand what people were thinking when they did it. Right?
Absolutely, yeah. I think
Unlike our
that's the
state
purpose.
legislation,
Exactly.
right? Okay, thank you.
Chandra, did you have any questions?
No, I did not. Thanks.
Okay. Okay, man, I guess the next section.
All right. So we're at if you're following along on the outline, it'll be on item 5 at the bottom of toward the bottom of the outline and entitled definitions. So we'll scroll down to the definitions portion of our program. A lot of scrolling, apologize. Okay, so we'll start with, would be definition number 10, and I want to try to frame the question I was asked and then why the language reads as it does, or what I was attempting to do with this language. So this is, I should further contextualize here, I apologize. These are examples of surveillance technology. So this is what the definition is under the definition of surveillance technology. So under examples, number 10, as it currently reads, is video and audio monitoring and or recording technology. And so there's been concern expressed about, and forgive me, I'm gonna butcher the technical language of how this works, but I'm gonna do my best. The things like Ring doorbells, doorbell camera systems that have capability to essentially, as I understand it, flip a switch or choose an option and automatically share access to either monitor or download footage with local law enforcement, right? So the customer, as I understand how this has worked, is they can opt to do that and to share it. And the concern has been about wanting to ensure that that possibility for our police department is clearly within the scope of what would be considered a surveillance technology that would be subject to council approval. And so that's what the new language here attempts to capture, is adding the qualifier that it's video and audio monitoring and or recording technology that can be remotely accessed, including privately owned devices such as doorbell or private security cameras. And so that would make, if council wanted to ensure that they could consider and approve or deny law enforcement's access to those back-end doorbell camera monitoring and video access, that would require review just like another surveillance technology would. The more kind of finely pointed question that was asked of me also was, can council also regulate and include in this definition police department access to use any footage from private doorbell cameras in an individual instance, right? Offered voluntarily by a property owner, let's say in a hypothetical. Somebody's house is broken into, they have a doorbell camera, it captures someone coming onto their porch, they want to hand it over to Urbana PD. The question would be, can council also include an approval process to say the police department can or can't utilize that footage in part of its investigation of the crime, and so that's where I think the inquiry changes, and I'll try to do my best to explain the nuances of it. So, generally speaking, it's within the City Council's authority to regulate its own police department's enforcement and investigative practices, internal practices. Like the use of surveillance technology. There is in our form of government in particular, the mayor, aldermanic form of government, there's a distinction between the legislative function of the city council and the legal authority of the police chief under state statute to control and direct things like investigative techniques, evidence gathering methods, how officers respond to victims and witnesses. And so in looking at this in a very kind of finely parsed, granular way, trying to potentially exclude or make subject to council approval an entire category of evidence, an entire type of evidence, which would be this sort of private video camera footage from individuals, not systemically shared in the way that Ring does, but on an individualized basis, to say council could say no to the police department in using or reviewing footage offered in an individual instance. In my opinion, that sort of crosses a line into the chief's control of police department operational matters that is given to the chief under state law and city ordinance, and it's less about regulating the department's practices and procedures in a manner consistent with the council's legislative authority. This is a very gray area. It's one that doesn't come up very often, which is kind of the role of council versus the role of the mayor or the police chief. But in this instance, I think categorically, potentially categorically excluding an entire type of evidence, I think gets us there, at least into weedy territory at best, and could lead to a challenge where somebody said the council exceeded their authority in passing a certain type of legislation. So I think that is likely a bridge too far. Again, these are nuanced questions, but I think that sort of categorical prohibition would be, like I said, would be going too far. And there's also the policy consideration related to this of, do we want to adopt policy that prohibits the use of this type of footage that could have an impact of impeding investigations or discouraging victim cooperation or creating evidentiary gaps in criminal cases if we can't use, or we say we're not going to use any footage like this that's generated by a Ring camera. Again, that's taking it to its full extreme, right? But that is a possibility if council adopts an ordinance that says we can say yay or nay, or we can regulate their ability to use this. There's always a potential that it becomes a flat prohibition. And so opening that door is what gets us, I think, moving across the line. I know that's sufficiently muddy. I'm happy to answer more questions about it. But as to that particular question, you'll see it's not included in this draft. That's the reason why. So this makes, again, the backdoor access, remote access setup subject to council review and approval. It does not make the use of a particular type of evidence or information on an individual basis subject to council approval. Okay. I'm going to move to the next one here under definitions, and then I can take, I can take questions now if you need.
Okay, go ahead, Mary Alice.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm very confused. Can you scroll back up for a moment?
Yes.
And I can always blame jet lag on this, but okay. So number 10, your proposed change of text here, is that in accordance with your belief that we cannot regulate Ring doorbells, or is this not in accordance with that?
So that, I would clarify, that is not my belief. So council can regulate what I would call the ability of our department to avail itself of one of the uses of the Ring technology, which is to have backdoor remote access to any camera that any customer opts that wants to share it. Ongoing basis, including accessing it and monitoring it live potentially. There's a distinct difference between that and saying we potentially are going to say you can't use footage that someone turns over in the process of investigating a crime or wants to hand over to police to use to investigate because it's a certain type of technology.
Okay.
Or it was generated by a certain type of technology.
That makes complete sense, and that qualifier there is ongoing, right? You're talking about a switch that a resident could make on their account, which would just open up the door and say, yeah, you can look at any of my footage at any time you want, versus somebody going and knocking on a door and saying, hey, did you encounter something at 10 a.m. on March 16th? Would you be willing to look at it? And if it's needed, would you be willing to share it? As a one-off. You're talking about continuous. Is that correct?
That's right.
So Matt, I mean, just to be also clear, when an individual homeowner wants to provide footage from their camera, they can. and council will not regulate that. However, and this may be beyond our jurisdiction and the purview of this discussion, but the defendant can cross-examine the evidence against them with knowledge of where the camera came from. I mean, all those state rules are in play. Is that correct?
That's right.
Okay, I'm going to leave it alone because I don't want us to go down that
Yeah,
route.
yeah. You don't want me to nerd out on this, I promise. Okay. All right.
I do have a question.
Yeah, sorry, Grace.
I'm sorry. James, go ahead, and then we'll go to you, Grace.
Yeah, I was just going to say, the simple version of this is we can't use Ring cameras as an extensive monitoring network, or we can regulate that as
Without the
council
permission,
because
right.
we're using it, the city's using it as a tool, but as we can't regulate evidence being submitted from a Ring camera just because it came from a Ring camera. Because it could be a VCR or a cell phone or whatever, however that video is acquired. That's the distinction that we're trying to make here.
That's right.
Thanks.
That's a good summary.
Go ahead, Grace.
Thank you. And I just wanted to clarify again, Matt, please say if this is what you're saying or not, but that you're saying it is within the purview to regulate by policy how the city uses and accesses remote cameras, even private doorbell or other security cameras, that is okay to regulate with a policy. We just need to be sure that we don't have a policy that's too strict that would impede investigations or outright prohibit the use of these kinds of technologies. Is that right?
It's close. The only, I guess, the one distinction I would make is it's not so much about council's ability to prohibit the use of a technology as it is in this context, in this sort of power of council, power of the police department, and the police chief in particular. It's about the type of evidence and it being a category of evidence, doorbell camera footage saying we're not going to use that because, as an oversimplified explanation, because we don't like doorbell cameras. That would be something that would occur on an individualized basis that would be subject to an investigation, and in a particular crime or alleged crime, whereas the back end remote access, sort of systemic access, is pretty classic surveillance technology in my view.
And so then you're okay, passes your legal standard definition 10 as it is there in the track changes. Is that correct?
That's right. I think that keeps us on the right side of the law.
Thank you.
Chandra, did you have anything?
No.
Okay. Go ahead, Matt.
All right. So the next one is the highlighted in yellow portion. It's not been assigned a number yet. It's just I think part of the ongoing draft. It hasn't been updated, but would be the use of aerial drones. I'll read the language as it's been amended here. Use of aerial drones by or on behalf of the city within city limits, in addition to compliance with the Illinois Freedom from Drone Surveillance Act. That would be a type or an example of surveillance technology and something within council's purview to regulate under a city ordinance. The question that was raised beyond this was essentially how far can we go? Can we as a council regulate or prohibit potentially, because it's within the sliding scale of regulation is prohibition on one end, The use of drones by neighboring public safety agencies, so Champaign Police Department, county, UIUC. Can we say you can't fly your drones in Urbana airspace? And the answer to that question is unequivocally no. The city and all local governments are preempted by state law. It's the, let me get the title correct, but Illinois Aeronautics Act expressly preempts local authority for the regulation of aerial drones in their own individual airspaces. And the purpose of that was to avoid a patchwork system of regulations throughout the state. And that was back in 2018, I think that was passed. So it's been the law for a while. So we can regulate our own city departments' use of drones, and to the extent that we might have an arrangement or an agreement with another agency, their use of drones on our behalf or at our behest, but not their independent use of drones. If it happened to be a chase or a search that transferred from one jurisdiction to another, that we couldn't say, oh, you have to stop here, you bring your drone down. So that's the distinction. It's internal regulation versus regulating the sky, which is the no-no.
Rudell.
I just want to get clarification. So you're saying that, okay, no city, no county can use the drones or use our airspace with drones without our consent. Is that also federal? If there's a, DEA, FBI, or whatever?
What I'm saying is they can.
They can, okay, that's what you're saying.
We cannot, so yeah, I apologize if I was confusing in how I worded it, but we cannot, as we, the city council, city of Urbana, cannot regulate our airspace and the use of drones by other local governments, private residents, essentially any entity, because that's the domain of the state of Illinois under the Aeronautics Act, and to a lesser extent, the federal government as well. That's their regulatory domain and not ours.
Okay, thank you.
Grace?
No question for me. Thank you.
Chandra?
No, I'm good.
Okay. I had one. So can we regulate our departments using other departments' drones?
Yes.
And you already said yes to that. Okay.
Yeah, just think of it as one and the same, essentially.
Okay.
Whether we have our own drones and we use them, or we have an agreement to rent or borrow someone else's.
Okay.
And they're doing it on our behalf, that's within council's purview.
Okay. That answers my question. All right. Next section, if you got one.
All right, we are at, okay, new definition. And this is one that has been discussed in some of the, drafting meetings and some of the internal meetings with the police department as a practical consideration, and one that some other cities have adopted as well. This particular terminology and definition comes from the City of Madison, Wisconsin's surveillance ordinance, and I'm going to get to it here. Okay. The definition is subpart F, and the terminology is sensitive surveillance technology information, which is defined to mean any information about surveillance technology that, if publicly disclosed, could unreasonably expose or endanger city infrastructure or adversely impact the operations of city departments. This also includes information about surveillance technology for which public disclosure may otherwise be prohibited by law. And then kind of how that type of information would be, would impact this ordinance would be, it would be an exception under things like what information we include in an annual surveillance report or a use report or even a policy, for example. It's that more granular type of information about how a technology works and the inner workings of it that could potentially, expose. I could give an example of like security cameras around a building, for example. It may or may not be something that the organization would want to do to have everyone know exactly where every camera is. In some cases, that's a choice that an organization makes, and in other cases, there are reasons why they wouldn't necessarily want to be, out there with the precise location of every camera. Same thing with where there might be gaps in camera coverage. So oftentimes, there will be a planning process, and we'll, chart out where cameras might go, things like that. And I was asked to kind of give some examples as part of this, and they're not in the draft here because I think they're mostly for the purpose of discussion, at least for tonight's meeting. But as a general rule, I think the best way to think about what surveillance technology information is typically public information in these types of ordinances that other communities have adopted are what technology the city owns, the policies governing that technology's use, its high-level capabilities, the data retention periods related to that technology, and things like oversight and auditing procedures relative to the same. What would more likely be viewed as sensitive surveillance technology information would be things like I was just describing, exact locations, technical vulnerabilities, security architecture, operational tactics, or investigative thresholds, things like that. I would invite the police department maybe to provide some more granular examples with some of the technologies that it might, at some point consider or that it's familiar with, but those are kind of as I would say, broader categories of what would distinguish sensitive technology information from, technology information we would put in a report and make public, generally speaking. And the point of that would be to protect infrastructure, operations, and things of that nature.
Questions? Grace?
I appreciate some of the examples. I didn't follow all of them, so if we could have some follow-up would be helpful. And then I'm still curious who determines what classifies as sensitive surveillance technology information, because it seems very broad and seems like we could just say, oh, that's sensitive information, so we're not going to disclose it, and kind of circumvent the entire rest of the ordinance. So I want to be sure that if this is something that is there, that it's very clear, it's very specific, and it's very clear who makes that determination. And then also, would council still have the right to access that information under some of the previous points here in the ordinance?
Those are good questions. I don't have specific answers to those at this point, but I do think I agree it warrants further discussion. I think this one has a lot of layers to it. So
totally understandable. Thank you.
Chandra, any questions?
No. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no others, Matt, you can continue.
I think in light of, just looking at the time, and in light of how much we've gone through, as well as the fact that I know that there's at least one item here that we're going to be following up on and having more discussion around, I think I'm going to save the last issue, that the document that says proposed new section 7, and save that for a future discussion instead of trying to get into it here tonight, if that's okay with the council. Okay.
Oh, I think so. I guess then you are dismissed, sir. Free to go. Okay, so that takes us to old business, And that begins with ordinance number 2026-03-007, an ordinance amending Schedule J of Section 23-183 of the Urbana Local Traffic Code prohibiting parking at all times on certain streets, namely Vine Street from Holmes Street to Florida Avenue. And Justin, you have the floor, sir, when you're ready.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Can pull up the information from the Committee of the Whole a couple weeks ago that Carmen presented. I'm really just here tonight to answer any questions about the ordinance that's was taken back to Committee of the Whole. We do plan to have a broader discussion with you all about traffic commission and how the city addresses traffic concerns or requests that come to us, and are going to be better prepared next week when have some people back from vacation. So we can talk through all of that and that process and how we got to where we are. But as it stands, the ordinance that was brought a couple weeks ago is still before you, and I'm happy to answer any questions about that and the recommendation that was made for those no parking area on Vine Street.
Okay, any questions? James.
I think it was Grace who requested that this come back to Committee of the Whole.
Okay, Grace, did you want to?
Do you have a question?
Grace, did you want to ask questions?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I have a question, and then I'm also happy to make a motion. My question is regarding the west side of Vine Street between Holmes and Pell. And I don't know if, Justin, do you have the map and the packet stuff handy to just put up on the screen so we're all looking at the same thing?
Yeah, can you
my question,
see this?
You want me to wait, or are you a multitasker?
I've got it up. I've got it up on the screen.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry, I'm on the annoying delay on the remote thing, so I don't see it yet, but I trust you. So between Holmes and Pell on the west side where there's that curve, it seems like that's not in either the previous or proposed no parking area. However, there are dashed white lines all on that side of the street that seem like it's prohibiting parking. So I guess I'm just curious, what's up with those dashed lines? Can people technically park there, and why? Or why are those lines there, and why can they park there, but we're proposing not the east side?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say, and I haven't had a chance to look into this as much as I'd like to, but the cross section of the road there wouldn't really allow space for parking on either side. However, it's not signed that way. The hatches that are shown there would indicate that no parking would be allowed on the side of the street there on Vine Street. So it's I don't know that it's included in that Schedule J, or it's not. I think we've seen that, but I think it's been identified probably for the similar reasons to the other side as an area where parking should be prohibited.
Okay, but you don't see any problem with just extending that here and just make it official? It just seems weird that we have these lines that indicate no parking when there's nothing that actually says you can't park there. Like, do you have any issue with extending the no parking on both sides of Vine to Pell Court or Circle?
No, I think that'd be reasonable if we're, if this is the, and again, we need to dig into this a little bit further, but if this is, the process through which we need to identify where parking is or is not permitted on these streets, then it would certainly make sense to add that for both sides of Vine Street here.
Thank you. And again, I'm happy to make a motion, but also let the chair see if there's other questions or other motion makers.
Any other questions? Grace, you're free to make a motion.
Thank you. I would move this item to City Council, resolution number 2026-03-007, in its original form that includes no parking extended to Pell Court on the east side. So the original recommendation by staff. And amend, and sorry, Darcy, let me know if I need to make this amendment separate, sorry, and amend to add no parking also on the west side of Vine to Pell Circle.
Okay, Grace, why don't we start with an amendment first to the ordinance and, no, what?
Two suggestions.
Go.
I think Grace accidentally called it a resolution instead of an ordinance, so she would need to amend that. And since she's the primary person who's making the motion, I feel like she can include whatever changes she'd like, if that's okay.
Okay.
Yep, I concur that you can do it in one go. However, just one minor correction. The original version was no parking on the west side to Pell Circle, not the east, if I remember correctly, because that's what's shown on the diagram. And we even changed the name of the ordinance to say from Holmes Street to Florida. It used to say Pell in the version of the packet that I think was on March 2nd, because it was different from the committee of the whole to when it went to council on the 9th, I believe. But yeah, I think it's just flipped, but the intent is the same, Grace, correct? That there's just no parking all the way to Pell on the east or the west side of Vine, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay, Grace, do you want to kind of say it? The ordinance, what you want to do in the amendment?
Yes, so change resolution to ordinance. Sorry, I'm scrolling back and forth on the electronic packet, so it's hard to, I can't look at the map and the ordinance number at the same time. So I will restate to move to City Council ordinance number 2026-03-007, an ordinance amending Schedule J, Section 23-128 of the Urbana Local Traffic Code, prohibiting parking at all times on Vine Street from, see, now I can't look at the map and read it. From George Huff to Pell. Is that correct streets there, I believe?
Yeah, that's right.
Or do we need to say all the way from Florida? Because we're adding from George Huff to Pell, but it's already up to Florida.
No, that's already in Schedule J. You said it exactly right.
Okay. Well, that's it then. I think I've said it. Thank you.
Okay, do we have a second?
Your ward.
I'm not going to act because my name appears too many times in here.
I'll put it on for discussion. I'll second. for the moment.
Okay.
Okay, all right. Moved by Grace, seconded by Mary Alice. Discussion. James.
Yeah, I will vote on it, but because it's been attributed to me that this was a request to the Traffic Commission. It was not. It was a request to legal to make sure the Schedule J was accurate and matched with the signage. It became a Traffic Commission item. But because this is my ward, I didn't want to make the motion or the second. I will vote on it because I have to vote on it for the benefit of the people in my ward, but that's why I was hesitant to second it.
Discussion, Grace?
I guess just clarify that I think that this is in alignment with the staff recommendation for safety. We've heard the majority of residents impacted by this are in support or indifferent to it. We had one minor concern or inconvenience that I think can easily be remedied. And then as far as the west side, that's just kind of stating what's already physically there with these hashed white lines on the side of the street. So I think this is in favor of safety driving down Vine Street.
Chandra, any discussion?
No.
Anyone else have any comments? Okay, this is final action, so it's, all right, so voice vote will do this. So let's, all in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. So that clerk has the direction to send that to the next city council meeting. Next is new business. Ordinance number 2026-03-009, an ordinance authorizing a solar facility ground lease and easement of Urbana landfill complex. And when Scott Tess is in the building, he's all business. You have the floor, sir.
This item is mostly a recapitulation of an ordinance and a lease that council approved some time ago. In the intervening time, we discovered that the lease we approved did not have easement access for the developer to get to the site that they're leasing in order to build and maintain on. And so that's what brings this back to council. And so just as a reminder, this is a lease to allow a developer to build, own, operate, and decommission a solar array on the city's closed landfill. There's a couple of other less substantive items that have been amended in this lease, and those are all listed in the memo. And then one item that we just discovered today, there's a drafting error. The lease reads 15.5 acres to be leased. It's actually going to be 16, and we will have that change reflected when you vote on this finally next week. I'll take any questions.
Any questions? Grace?
I do have quite a few questions, and I thank you, Scott, for sending some previews in emails and addressing the number of acres. That was one of my questions. I guess I'm still confused where the 16 is from when I'm seeing that one of the parcels is 15.991 acres, and then there's another parcel that's 1.006 acres. So I'm just seeing that add up to actually 17 acres.
They are not.
Unless there's some right-of-way exemption or something.
Yeah, they're not leasing the right along the boundaries of a particular parcel. There's several parcels that make up the Urbana landfill complex, and so they're carving out. We initially, in our RFP, offered a great deal more acres. Just to zoom out for a second, there's a substantial closed landfill that the city owns. We've long made good use of that land with the police firing range and the landscape recycling center both operate on top of that landfill. And yet we still have a substantial balance of land that you can't sell. No one's buying landfills, and there's not a lot of other reuses for. So we, in our initial RFP offered a lot of land, and then initially this developer was contemplating 24 acres, and then when final engineering is done, it's just 16. But it doesn't necessarily follow a particular parcel boundary.
Thank you. And then I was also wondering about, so some section does mention in 5.3 that any security device they can implement as long as it doesn't breach or impair the integrity of the clay cap covering of the landfill. So if these solar panels are on the clay covering of the landfill, it seems to me that the city also needs maybe some monitoring access. And it said somewhere else in here that they may control vegetation, but they don't have to. So I'm wondering about yeah, it says 4.41 says that the tenant may remove or prune vegetation. But what if, say, there is a tree that starts growing on their leased parcel that would potentially penetrate that layer of the landfill? I'm not seeing anything that says that they must remove any of that growth or that the city has rights to come in and do that management. I didn't know if you could clarify.
Yeah, the city would have rights to enter their leased area. Typically, that's in these leases with notice, and I'd have to look at the section again. You're referencing 4.3. You said
4.1.4 is about tenant may remove vegetation. It says that the tenant may not make punctures to it without express consent of the landlord. And just wondering if you could verify at some point which section in this contract gives the city the right to enter that space and maintain vegetation or anything else that might puncture the landfill lining.
I'd have to sift through it and take some time to sift through it. Typically, we do have access, or we do have rights to access that because we have, we have other landfill installations like passive vents and so forth that we may want to maintain. But I can follow up with you on that.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
Can I
I was also
interject
wondering
something?
about.
Grace, can you hold up and let Mary Alice have a quick interjection here?
So Grace, your question is in regards to whether or not there are rights for the city to go into the property. Is that your question?
Yes.
Okay, that's section 4.3, landlord's inspection rights.
Yes, I was just going to say. I think I just found it as well. Yes, 4.3 inspection right. I was just scrolling, but yeah, take a look. But I just want to be sure that it's clear that we have the right to maintain and monitor the landfill as a landfill, regardless of the VC.
Thank you. Yeah, it says landlord shall be entitled to enter upon the property during normal business hours and upon at least 72-hour prior notice to tenant in order to inspect the property. And it carries on from there.
Anything else, Grace?
Yes, I have some other questions, but on that, still I'm just seeing a right to inspect, not right to like remove a tree or something. So just want to again be sure that we have the right to monitor and maintain that property still. And then the other question was about the time period. I think there may be some discrepancy in the term, section 2.1. It says that this will remain in effect for 25, and then in parentheses it says 27 years. So just wondering which one that is.
Yeah,
and then
27 was the intention. 2.
So we just want to 2.1.
2.1 says 27.
Oh, it says 25
Like
in
words, it says
text and then
25.
27 in the number.
In Word. Yes.
Yep,
The
that's a
words
drafting error.
25
Thank
and the
you.
number 27 going
Yep.
along. Yeah. And then, so the initial term was 5 years, right? Are we extending this to 25 in this round?
Sorry, can you say again?
What was the initial term before this update? Was it 5 years and now we're extending it to 25 years?
Initial term, what we were contemplating in an earlier version was 25 years as an initial term. And so the developer is interested in 25 years of operational term. And then, of course, there's some time to construct the project that they would need to have a lease for as well. And so that's why we end up on this kind of odd number of 27.
Okay, but the original one was 25, and now we're changing from 25 to 27.
Correct.
Okay. And then I appreciate that you sent a map, but I guess I'm still not sure specifically what easement area we're talking about. So I don't know if
Yeah, the easement.
for visual or for later.
The easement runs from the east corner of the leased area to the east gate of the property. So it's on an existing road that's used by, landfill maintenance and the landscape recycling center that goes east to exit the property. So the easement is for the developer to bring materials and labor onto the project for construction, and then also access the site for maintenance post-construction. So it's just this road that goes from the east corner of the parcel they're leasing to the exit of the property.
And is that an existing road or?
It is. It's an existing road.
Creating one?
It's an existing road.
And so we're saying that they can have access to it, or now that's part of their leased area?
It's not part of the leased area, so they won't have a fence around it, so to speak. It's just an access easement.
And they would be paying $1,632 per acre with a 2% increase. Oh, that's the annual cost per acre, and then a 2% increase annually, and that's correct?
Correct. Times 16 acres.
Yes, thank you. I think that might be the bulk of my questions for now, but if I may request that if for next week, if we could have update just on some of the minor details of the contract, like a small typo, and verify about maintenance of the property, like under 4.3, if there's anything to add about maintenance, or if there is another section in here that explicitly says that the city still has the right to maintain the property. And again, just out of concern for the landfill liner and the city needing to be able to monitor and protect that.
Absolutely.
Any other questions? Chandra, did you have any questions?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I make motion.
Go ahead, Mary Alice.
I will make a motion that we move this on to City Council's regular agenda. Ordinance number 2026-03009, an ordinance authorizing a solar facility ground lease and easement of Urbana Landfill Complex.
I'll second.
Motion by Mary Alice, seconded by Verdell. Discussion.
I do have one.
Go ahead, Grace.
Thank you. Sorry, a question I forgot actually was about, and you did answer this over email, Scott, but I'm still not entirely clear about the direct benefits of this operation to Urbana residents and communities. Definitely the lease revenue. You also mentioned tax revenue, and so I'm curious what other tax revenue there is. And then you mentioned the opportunity to subscribe to community solar array. And I'm just asking for maybe a little more clarification on if local residents can subscribe to this somehow.
Sure. So there are a number of benefits stacked for this project. One is we're going to expand clean, renewable energy in the state. Two, we're going to get lease revenue for a property that probably isn't going to have any other uses. Three, this property goes on the tax rolls as it is no longer a nonprofit use but a for-profit use, and the developer will pay those taxes. I don't have an estimate on that, but we can look up the tax revenues from the existing solar array. Four, this takes a vegetative maintenance responsibility off of the city and the entity that manages the landfill. And five, it's an opportunity for Urbana residents and actually anyone in Ameren territory to subscribe their electricity supply to the low income or to the market rate community solar array that's going to go on this landfill. So just like similar to how someone might have a retail electric supplier, they can subscribe their electricity supply to a community solar array. It's a highly regulated product in the state of Illinois, and they're usually offered at some fixed discount as compared to the default electricity supply option in Ameren territory. So
and you're saying
go ahead.
Oh, yeah. So you're saying the company leasing this land will pay property taxes for it?
Correct.
Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay, but this is not like low-income solar for all kind of agreement like the other set of solar panels. Is that right?
Correct. Our first
Is it a
development.
little different?
Yeah, our first development, the developer was able to win a low-income community solar array incentive. This development, they were able to win a market rate community solar incentive from the state.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. And I would just say my discussion piece that I definitely support these creative uses of our closed landfills. The Landscape Recycling Center, I think, is a great and creative, sustainable asset for our community. And having solar panels there, I think that Scott nicely summarized some of the benefits, and that big picture, yeah, our use of a closed landfill is really incredible to have these various uses from something that would otherwise be only a burden to the community.
Anybody else with discussion? Seeing none. Chandra, did you have any discussion?
No, I didn't.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no other further comments, we'll have a voice vote. All in favor say aye.
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 And all opposed say nay. The ayes have it. That will move to the regular agenda. Next item is resolution number 2026-03-011R, a resolution approving amendments to a redevelopment agreement with MCDJ LLC, that is CU Adventures in Time and Space at 302 North Broadway Avenue. And Ms. Jovan, you have the floor when you're ready.
Thank you. Good evening, council members. And I just wanted to introduce myself for Mr. Jones. I'm Olivia Jovian. I'm the Director of Community Development Services here with the City of Urbana. Tonight, I will be very briefly just introducing the amendment to the redevelopment agreement that you have before you. The redevelopment agreement was originally approved in February of 2025 with the developer, MCDJ LLC, which is my kosher. And this first amendment that's brought forward we would like to extend the project completion date from September 1st, 2025 to May 1st, 2026. It's a bit of housekeeping. I was going back and reviewing the agreement, which predated my time, and realized that that date had passed us, and so as not to have the developer and the subsequent tenant be in default of the agreement, we decided to take this opportunity to revisit it. And the developer, upon his review, proposed the following adjustments to the agreement. So the first one would be that the completion date is moved from September 1st, 2025 to May 1st, 2026, and then also to remove some terms related to the performance of the business. So the tenant who now has possession of the space after build out is CU Adventures in Time and Space, Chris and Ann Lukeman, and I will ask them to join me after for questions since they're far more knowledgeable about this project than I am. The new opening will be featuring a smaller mini golf course, at least in this initial stage. And then, of course, the bar and entertainment venue will be fully open to the public and operational. And so as a result, we wanted to check the progress. So the Urban Planning Division and the building official have been touring the space, and the Urban Planning Division toured the space last week, and it's fully up and running. There's already a soft opening in place, which Chris and Ann will speak to in more detail. So we feel confident that they'll be able to make the May 1st deadline. But I did want to speak a little bit to the suggested alteration of the business terms. So currently, I believe there are 5 holes completed. We can confirm that in a minute, but these are not just a mini golf ramp leading, one hole to the next. This is really a fully immersive art experience, and each course requires a huge amount of creative effort and production. And so we feel confident that the team is working towards realizing a full set of a full course, but at this time there's just a limited number of mini golf courses or experiences currently available. So we'd like to move forward with opening and get the public in there and have them create some revenue. But staff would like to recommend that the requirement for reaching a certain number of just want to make sure I get the terminology right. So requiring a fewer number of rounds, in fact, just removing the number of rounds that was originally contemplated in the agreement would allow for the most flexibility for the business to operate how they need to operate and make the terms of this agreement more favorable for all parties. So with that said, after touring the facility and talking with the tenants and the owner and our building official, we're proposing these requested changes, and we would like to tie the terms of the agreement to the food and beverage performance of $500,000 a year, as opposed to the food and beverage performance and the rounds of golf. So without further ado, I think I'll invite Chris and Ann to come forward, but I'm also available to answer questions, should you have any.
Hello.
I will go ahead and invite you to make any opening statements you'd like to make.
Yeah, first of all, we would like to thank the city again for, giving us the opportunity to help do all of this downtown. And we had a really good time hosting the mayor and other city staff on last Friday. And following that, we had a bartender training and friends and family events all weekend, and the course and bar opened great, and a lot of people have sort of echoed the comments we're seeing from the city that it really is something unique and special, and we can't wait to show you all and the community at large.
Yeah, and on a specific note, if any council members want to get a tour, please shoot me an email, info@cuadventures.com. Just let me know. All our information's on the website. We would love to show you around. And Mike Hosier apologizes he can't be here. Lucky him, he is in Australia.
Okay, any questions? Grace, Mary Alice, go ahead.
Yeah, and I apologize, I haven't been in town, so I didn't have a chance to look up the original agreement. So basically, I think, one of the ideas is to stimulate economic growth, vitality, business within the downtown corridor. That's the purpose of having these TIFs, so that we are able to promote businesses, right? And so that comes with the promise that some of that will be paid back, not necessarily that you will be paying it, but rather all of your business that you generate will be paid back. If we do agree to remove the number of games played, for lack of a better word, what does that do, Olivia, to the calculation of the return on investment of TIF funds?
So the agreement as originally written, not amended, is that the city would have an obligation to distribute 5 annual payments. The first of 5 annual payments would be $42,000, which to be issued upon 30 days after certificate of occupancy. And then the following 4 payments would be paid based on performance, and performance towards a $500,000 food and beverage sales target, which would to be met in a 12-month period, and as before being amended, on generating 31. So it says CUA new mini golf course entertainment venue generated 31,000 rounds in the same 12-month period. So I can't tie a number of like a revenue number to the 31 rounds. I can only tie a revenue number to the food and beverage sales tax. So it's hard for me to calculate what those rounds of golf would.
It's the tax, right? It's going to be the sales tax. Is that correct?
So it's our understanding, and it has been, that because it's like a ticketed, like a service, it does not actually have a sales tax for mini golf rounds.
Oh.
Which is why we thought that the food and beverage made up the part of the agreement that seemed more important and relevant than rounds.
Okay, all right, so services don't have a tax.
That is correct in Illinois.
Okay, I don't know why I never noticed that before.
When we say 31 rounds, we talking
I'm sorry,
31?
31,000. I'm sorry if I misspoke. 31,000 rounds was previously written. Yeah.
Okay.
I think I did misspeak. It should have been 31,000. Yeah.
Any other questions? Grace and Chandra, any questions?
Mine was kind of along the lines of Mary. Mine was along the lines of Mary Alice's to just confirm TIF payments versus expected tax revenue. And it sounds like you said 5 payments of roughly $42,000 a year comes out to $210,000-ish. And you say in the memo that they expect 880 some thousand in revenue, which would be 140 in food and beverage tax. That ratio at the 500 minimum would be about 80,000 a year in taxes. I just want to be sure I have all those numbers right, that you're saying that we will put city money in from TIF of 42,000 a year and expect a minimum of 800,000 a year in return in tax revenue.
Thank
or
you.
80,000.
Thank you, Grace. I'm just reading that section of the memo now. I think our projected annual revenue is 888,584.
Yes, but the minimum is 500,000, right? So that's the expected. But
Yep.
say if they met the minimum every year of 500,000, that same ratio should be about 80,000 in food and beverage sale tax.
Sales tax. So I think I don't think I understand your question, but I believe you're I mean, we're looking at the same document.
Grace is trying to project what we're getting back for the 42,000 that
I
we're
see.
paying in, and her estimate is that we're getting back $2 for every one we put in each year.
Without
just
doing
basing it
that
off
mental
of
math
the-
myself, that seems accurate. But thank you for the summary. Yes, and I would welcome Chris and Ann to speak to to their anticipated projected performance, since they're kind of in this every day.
Yeah, so it was our understanding that the number of rounds played was not affecting what the city was counting on as part of tax revenue as payment for their investment whatsoever. The change in rounds wasn't affecting that. I think our revenue estimates are still well within reasonable levels. Obviously, prices have gone up for everything, which has hurt our construction budget, but will benefit our revenue sizably. And, you know, that's one of the reasons for wanting to adjust the rounds in general. It gives us more flexibility to have a smaller course now that we expand over time when we move from our current occupancy to occupying the whole space. But the bar, the tavern side, you know, has over 100 seats open and plenty of room and weird things for people to look at while they have their drinks. So as far as we're concerned, the tax generating portion of the experience is going to be fully open. And the fact that we're making the courses bigger, changing the courses, things like that, if anything, will bring more business in because people will be coming back to see what's different.
One quick question. How long would it take to play 5 holes at your place right now?
Some weird things are happening. So, like, this is our beta testing period, last weekend and this weekend. Some people are really, I don't know whether it's competitiveness, but they really want to speed through the course, and some people take their time. So managing those two kinds of groups running into each other is interesting. If it's a full team of 4 or 5 people, it still takes about half an hour, which we're actually getting some feedback is perfect, which we weren't expecting or hoping. But then again, it does give us some flexibility for maybe we'll do more shorter courses instead of 2 hour-long experiences. We might end up with 3, with 1 is an hour long and 2 are half-hour long or something. We don't want people to leave as much as we want people to have more beverages. We don't want people to walk out of the course to go to the bar and then come back, because then they've missed things and it throws our timing off. And we're even starting to see that just with friends and family.
What's the place going to sound like?
It will sound like a Renaissance fair. We have our current song license for Airplay is a station that's all medieval covers of current popular music.
It's a genre called bardcore.
Yeah. If you come in and take a look, you will know exactly what it sounds like, even if you can't hear anything.
But there is a form of music happening that's appropriate to the space.
Yes, we have music playing in the bar and tavern area, and then we also have more of an ambient track in the mini golf area, and then there's also lots of sound effects happening.
Cool. Okay, I'm not going to bother you. So where are we at? Need a motion. Thank you. Sir. Anybody want to make a motion here? Thanks.
Hey, Mike, there we go. I will move resolution number 2026-03011R, resolution approving amendments to redevelopment agreement with MCDJ LLC, CU Adventures in Time and Space at 302 North Broadway Avenue, onto the regular agenda at City Council.
Second.
Moved by Mary Alice, seconded by Chandra. Discussion. Anyone? I'm surprised the mayor doesn't have some thoughts.
Other than I encourage you all to send them an email to visit the space. Seriously, it's like nothing I've seen in a very, very, very long time. So I am excited about it. And I don't know if I can say this, but the top shelf liquor choices is amazing as well. So while golfing safely. Okay. But no, seriously, great job, guys. And again, I can't wait for the community to see this. So it's very special.
Thank you, Mayor. Anybody else with some discussion? Seeing none.
Discussion?
Oh, go ahead, Grace.
Thank you. Just wanted to say thank you to CU Adventures in Time and Space for being here and these creative expansions for the community, and for the city staff and powers that be in working to figure out the best way to amend some of these agreements. I think that we're working on balancing the TIF money and expectations. Brought this up when we originally had this agreement, that I thought it was kind of on the stricter expectation side, and we swung the pendulum the opposite way. I think we learned the hard way that when we don't have any expectations of revenue, we're not guaranteed to get this money back, and that's really important to do. So I think that we're looking for that balance, and I think we're getting close to finding it. So appreciate everyone in that process. I really look forward to the new mini golf and the new bar area. Unfortunate, I'm bummed to hear that it's a little longer than expected, but obviously it didn't happen in September. So glad to hear a date and appreciate the work here and looking forward to it.
Thank you, Grace. Chandra, any comments?
No.
Yeah. Okay, that concludes discussion. So all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. And the ayes have it, and that'll be sent to the next city council meeting. Last item is resolution number 2026-03-012R, a resolution approving an increase in the number of liquor licenses in the Class R&T-2 designation for Mexican restaurant La Vella, LLC, DBA La Vella Mexican Restaurant at 1805 Philo Road, Urbana, Illinois. And Darius, you have the floor, sir.
Yeah, no, I'll say that. It is the restaurant at the end of Sunnycrest Mall. Essentially, they are just, they're going to start selling beer and wine now. That's it.
Okay, and any questions at this point? Can I get a motion? Yeah.
Make a motion, since it seems silly to put only one thing on the consent agenda. I'll just go ahead and put this on the regular agenda. I will move to City Council on the regular agenda with a recommendation for approval, resolution number 2026-03-012R, resolution approving an increase in the number of liquor licenses in the Class R&T 2 designation for Mexican restaurant La Vella, LLC, doing business as La Vella Mexican Restaurant at 1805 Philo Road, Urbana.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Moved by Mary Alice, seconded by Verdell. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it, and that'll be moved to the next city council meeting. Last item is council input and communications. Grace, any comments? I'll get to you. Grace, any comments?
Yes. Just wanted to put a reminder for Ward 6 listening session this Thursday at 6:30 at the Health and Wellness Center. People to come out and be heard. And also did want to apologize that I'm not able to be physically present today. Was really hoping to, especially with our new council members. So welcome again, Verdell. I'm sorry to be remote voice in the ceiling tonight and look forward to being back in person.
Chandra, would you like to make any comments?
No, thanks.
Mary Alice.
So I have three things. Grace already welcomed Verdell. I want to say welcome as well. It turns out that I've been here for 10 years, which is kind of crazy. So if you have questions, please feel free to call me up. The second thing I wanted to address was two things that came up during public comment today. So one, I wanted to send appreciation to, I believe I wrote his name down as Gabriel, talking about his homeless experience in our community. And so I thank him for coming out and speaking with us today. And the last thing is there was a reference by Stuart Levy on the traffic stop analysis. And I remember that report, and I read it a long time ago, so I went back and looked it up. It was done in 2015. Interestingly, WILL at Illinois are the people who have archived that report. So if you just Google traffic study Urbana 2015, you'll get a copy of that report. I will be rereading it. I think that there's some interesting information there, but I do want to refresh my memory on it. Thank you.
I just wanted to, Verdell, did you have comments?
Yes, I just want to say thank you for the warm welcome here today. I'm super excited to work with each and every one of you. Sorry if I'm a little spaced out. It's Ramadan and I'm fasting, so I'm a little hungry right now. But thank you so much for all the people who came and spoke. I want to echo what Mary Alice said to the homeless man who came and spoke to us. I think that's crucial. I want to continue to encourage those to come and speak, use their voice, so that as a council we can get a well-rounded opinion.
And I would like to say, welcome back to Alderperson Chandra Bishop, and it's good to have you back. Also, welcome aboard Mr. Jones. And we trust and hope that this whole, Indiana Hoosier thing is out of your system. You are now in Urbana Tiger country. We take 2 oaths here. We swear to the Constitution and we swear support for the Urbana Tigers. And Verdell's looking at me like, I don't get Thanksgiving dinner without that, right? But no, welcome aboard. Give me a call anytime if you need any help, and I'll ask Mary Alice. All right, so James, did you have it? Go ahead, Mayor.
Welcome, Verdell. You got a good experience tonight, but of course you had been here a couple times and see how this goes forward. We do have community engagement. I spent 6 years on the county board, and we did not get a lot of community engagement on the county board except once or twice, depending on what was going on. But at least in the city of Urbana, we have frequent and common community engagement. Once they get your phone number and email address, you'll find out they reach out to you personally too. And that's a great thing. The best thing you can do in this community is talk about how to support it and make it better, and you'll find a lot of people that are willing to do that.
I was going to say I can share some of James's 3 minutes. I only had a little. But I just want to give a shout out to staff. You guys are amazing. You get pulled in a lot of different directions, but I just want to tip my hat to you because you guys are rocking it. You guys and gals are rocking it, and I truly, truly, truly appreciate the work that each of you do. You at least help me keep the remaining pieces of hair that I have. So I thank you all, and I know that Darius and the council agree. So thank you all.
Okay, seeing no further business, this meeting is adjourned.